It's to be debated which of the car manufacturers has the most loyal following. For instance, you've got BMW, who are currently sticking with them throughout their massive grille stage. You've got the Mini lovers, whose current cars are no longer Mini. And then you've got the Volkswagen fanatics, one of which I'd say I was. We've had to put up with a slight drop in quality, fiddly touchscreens, and haptic buttons. But finally, Volkswagen seem to have turned a corner and going back to their roots. Last year, I got to take a look at the Volkswagen Tiguan, and it proved that Volkswagen know what they're doing when they're building cars. This Tiguan is packed with more spec than ever, stylish exterior and interior, and much better quality. I'm so excited to show you this car. As soon as this arrived at Ipswich Volkswagen, I was straight over there to grab the keys because I wanted to find out if it really is as good as it looks. Plus, Volkswagen seem to think that bigger is better. But is that always true? Well, hopefully I'm going to answer all of these questions in today's video. Hi guys, Tish here and welcome back to my channel, Auto Social UK. In today's video, I'm going to show you around the 2024 third generation Volkswagen Tiguan, and we're going to find out if it's better than ever. So if you want to find that out, then please keep watching. If you like new car reviews and car content, then hit the subscribe button. And if you wanted to check one of these out for yourselves, then you can do that at the Marriott Motor Group. I'll put their details in the description box down below, and they'll set you up on a test drive so you can figure out if it's just as wonderful as I think it is. And yes, that is a bit of a preview as to what I think of the new Tiguan. So let's get into it. First off, let's start by talking about the design. Very few car manufacturers manage to build a car which is so instantly recognisable as the model that it replaces, while still looking modern and fresh. And I think Volkswagen have done exactly that with the Tiguan. I really like the styling of this vehicle. I think they've got it spot on. Now, this model is actually the R-Line. But I filmed the Elegance when I was in Germany, and they look like quite different cars. They have their own personalities, and I really like that. The Elegance has these silver bars which go across the middle, whereas on this vehicle, you've got this piano black crisscross grille, which really looks quite aggressive. I like this a lot. You also get this new bar, which is a light bar across the centre. Now, unfortunately, in the UK, we don't yet get the glowing VW badges. Hopefully they're going to come. You can get them on the back, but not on the front for now. But you do have this light bar, which runs all the way along the centre, which I really love. It's also just a bit softer in its styling. Don't get me wrong, this looks very aggressive as the R-Line, but they've kind of softened some of the edges, and I quite like it because ultimately this is a family car, so it has to be loved by all the family. Right, let's check out the back. All versions of the new Tiguan do get roof rails as standard. The entry-level cars get black roof rails, and as you work your way up past the match specification, they're finished in chrome. And they go together really nicely with the chrome surround of the windows on this R-Line spec model. All versions of the Tiguan are now bigger than they were previously. They're wider, they're longer, they're higher, and that means more interior space and boot space, which I'll talk about in a moment. But it's a very handsome car. What you'll notice is around the back, there's no longer any tailpipes, and there's no fake tailpipes either, which Volkswagen did used to do. And that's because they're moving towards more economical versions of the vehicles. There's lots of electrified models, including plug-in hybrids and hybrids as standard, which I really love. You've got Tiguan spelled out across the tailgate. Because this is the R-Line, you've got that gloss black crisscross bottom bumper, and you've got the chrome bar as well, which is nice. You've also got that light bar, which once again is mirrored to the front light bar, which runs all the way along the rear of the Tiguan into the centre badge. Now, before we head on to the interior of the car, let me tell you about all the different specifications of the Tiguan, because there is quite a few. Kicking off the specs is this Tiguan seemingly with no actual model name. This basic model is priced at just over £34,000, but is anything but basic. It gets 17-inch alloy wheels, a digital cockpit pro, wireless app connect, front and rear parking sensors with camera, fabric seat covers named quad paper. Hopefully they're not actually made of paper. The Life model increases the wheel size to 18 inches and the price to just over £36,000. It adds ambient lighting, wireless phone charging, folding mirrors, adaptive cruise control and park assist. The familiar Match model appears to be the best way for value for money and is actually slightly cheaper than the Life. You get a full electric boot, keyless entry, the front light bar, rear tinted windows, but interior remains the same as the Life model. The two top-spec models tuck in at just under £40,000. The Elegance gets 19-inch wheels, heated and massaged part-leather look seats, as well as an aerial view camera. The R-Line that I'm driving gets all the sporty styling, including larger 20-inch wheels and heated massage sport seats. And if you thought it would be easier to pick the engine, then there's still loads of choice here as well. There's a 1.5 mild hybrid petrol engine available in 2 power outputs, depending on the specification you choose. Less pricey models get 130 PS, and if you're after something a little quicker, then there's also a familiar 150 PS output version. There's also still a 2-litre diesel available with a power output of 150 PS matching the petrol. The headline new additions are the plug-in hybrids, with up to 62 miles of electric-only range. The standard output is 204 PS, but the pricier models can increase the power to 272 PS. For now, all models are front-wheel drive and automatic only. So there's a lot of decisions to be made when it comes to the latest Tiguan. And the vehicle may be bigger, but so are the prices. So is it worth it? Well, let's jump onto the interior and check that out as well. And inside, I continue to be impressed once again. It really is a very impressive car when you first take a look at it because there's so much new. The thing with new generations of vehicles is sometimes they don't change that much and there's not an awful lot to talk about. Suzuki Swift. But with this, it is incredibly different to the outgoing car that it replaces. Of course, we're going to talk about it first because it is right in front of me here, and that is the larger touchscreen. This is the absolutely massive 15-inch display. And interestingly, when I collected this car from Ipswich, somebody outside was having a look around and I said, come in and have a look. And he asked me, is that massive screen standard on the R-Line? And to be honest, I didn't know how to answer him because I didn't know the answer. But after looking online, I've realised that this massive screen is not actually standard across any of the products, except this, which is the launch edition, which came with it as standard. And I think that's a little bit naughty of Volkswagen to launch it with the huge screen. So this is the one that everybody's going to see. And a lot of people may be thinking that's just too big. And I actually agree. So I don't think it's worth upgrading for the 15-inch screen. You get a 12.6-inch screen as standard across the whole range. And I think that's far better suited. It's just not quite as obviously huge. It's a little bit smaller and I think it'll fit in the car a bit nicer. But that's actually a positive to me that this isn't standard. So that means if you really do want this massive screen, you can pay about £1,000 and you can get it upgraded to that larger one, which is a great option if that's what you want from your car. So I'm quite glad that we get the smaller one as standard. Now let's talk about the layout of this screen. I actually think it's pretty good. So this is the home screen and it's split up into different widgets. Now what Volkswagen have done is they've tried to make it really simple for customers to use their massive screens by adding loads of shortcuts. So you'll see along the bottom here, you always have your climate control on at all times. And then you can use these sliders to turn your temperature up and down. You can sync them like that, and the passenger can do the same. You also have your volume control down the centre here as well, but you don't actually need to use that, which I'll talk about in a moment. You've also got your heated seat buttons, and the great news about this new generation of screen is this slider along the bottom is actually backlit at night, so you'll still be able to use it during the night. it. Now, a few things on this system. Of course, you can see the satellite navigation. Now, that isn't standard on cars up to match. So anything above match gets a satellite navigation as standard, but they all get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which are wireless, which is pretty good. You can slide across, and then that's a few more sections there, or you can hit this part at the top and it brings up all of your different settings. As you can see, there is loads of different functions of this, and I could talk about it for ages. You've got your colours for controlling your ambient lighting, loads of different colours. They look absolutely fantastic. The ambient lighting also changes with your different modes as well. And then along the top here, you'll see you've got shortcuts to your radio, shortcuts to your mode buttons, and this is my favourite, shortcuts to your driver assist systems. So if you want to quickly turn things off when you're driving, you can simply go to that assist button and you can turn them off ready for your drive, which is really good. You've also got a shortcut to your parking there. We do get the 360-degree aerial view camera, but once again, that's quite a pricey upgrade. Standard cars do get rear parking sensors, front parking sensors, and I also think from match cars you get a rear view camera as well, which is pretty good. But as you can see, when I've been playing around with this, it's really easy to use. It's super intuitive. It always kind of responds to your touch. So overall, I'm really impressed with this larger screen. So that massive touchscreen out of the way, and let's talk about the rest of the cabin, because behind that huge screen, there's loads else going on as well. I love this illuminated dashboard here. This is fantastic. And you can change it to so many different colours. You've got loads of really nice quality materials used. I love the leather, which is carried on across the dashboard. You've got a nice leather wrapped steering wheel with physical buttons. The physical buttons are back in full force, and you've also got leather down this center console and on the armrest. These seats are great as well. So these are the standard R-line seats, really comfortable bucketed seats that look like they come out of a high performance model, and you've got the blue piping on the seats, which is carried across the dashboard and also across the doors. I really like it in here. I would be interested to see a match car instead to compare the difference between the two vehicles, because of course the R-Line is always going to be the most impressive. And as I mentioned, I actually think with a smaller screen, it will still look just as impressive. Right, next up, let's talk about layout and storage, because I actually think this is quite clever. So down here, you've got kind of this little flip up dash bit here, and what that will do is it will actually act as a shelf for your mobile phone or any items you want to put there, and because it's rubber lined, it means things won't slide around too much. But underneath this, you've got two USB-C charging points, and you've also got two wireless charging pads as well. So that comes as standard in the match cars up. You get wireless charging, which I think is fantastic. And you've got two massive sections there. You could easily fit two large phones side by side. You've then got this very fancy new button, which I'll talk about in a moment. And then you've got a very clever storage system. So as you can see, I've got my armrest in the extended position, which will also come up as well. So that's a really comfortable driving position. But then if I pop it back down and slide it back, she says, oh, it was slid back. Okay, you can slide it forward. It was already slid back. So you can slide it forward. You can also have it up as well. So even tall people will be nice and comfortable with this armrest. And now let's do what I was supposed to do. So you pop it back and go into the down position. She says, there you go, a little bit fiddly. And then you've got kind of like a customizable storage section. So in here, you've got some removable cup holders, which I think is quite cool. And you've also got these little storage selectors for kind of changing up the storage sections. I didn't really like these in the Fiat, don't really like them now. They feel a lot better quality than in the Fiat. They're much, much heavier. But to be honest, I don't really think they're needed, but you could easily fit a large bottle of water in there. And then just to the back, you've got some 12-volt charging as well. I'll pop these cup holders back because they're essential really, aren't they? And the layout, just in terms of everything, is really great. But what I will say is that some people have said, oh, the touchscreen is in reaching distance. Now, to me, that's not in reaching distance. That's actually quite far forward. Of course, this is a massive car now. It's really big inside, so it is going to be a little bit further away. And I do have to lean forward a little bit if I want to touch the shortcut buttons, which I do find a bit of a shame. Now, what they've done with this touchscreen, of course, is they've added loads of shortcuts so everything is really easy to find, but it's still not that close for me, and I'm sort of 5'5", 5'6", so I'm not small, and I do struggle reaching that a little bit, which is a shame. But that's when the use of the voice activation systems work really well, to be able to change those things quickly without having to fiddle around with the touchscreen. Now let's talk about this new button. This clever button has a multitude of functions. As default, it's your volume button, but press it down and that changes to your drive modes. Then swipe across and it controls your moods. Changing these adapts the ambient lighting, music, volume, and even gives you the option to add playlists. One thing I have found a little bit difficult to get used to at first with this new car is the new placement of the gear selector. So rather than being in the centre where you'd usually find it, it's now behind the steering wheel where your window wipers used to be. And you can see where the problem is going to come in here. Because, first of all, I always go looking for it in the centre console and then I go playing around with that funny changeable dial. And then when I do find it, that's fine. So it's behind the steering wheel. But then I sometimes forget it's there, and then when I go to change my window wipers, I hit my indicators, and so it definitely takes a little bit of getting used to when it comes to this, although it's all trial and error. All cars, when you first get into them, it is a little bit tricky, but over time you get used to where all the different functions are. And I guess I quite like the fact that it's behind the steering wheel because it keeps it nice and clean and tidy. It's not cluttering up the center console, and you've got extra storage space, which is a bonus. I've always liked the placement of the cruise control on Volkswagens. They place them on the steering wheel, and this means they're really easy to find and really easy to use when driving. I hate it when they put them behind the steering wheel. And going back to all of those different engine options, that's the best thing about the Tiguan. It has loads of different options depending what you want from your vehicle. You want an economical family car which you can plug in at home and pretty much run on electric. Then it's got it. You want an economical car to drive around where you don't have to have the faff of plugging in and you don't need quite so much power. It's got that. And if you want a high performance Tiguan, then it's also got this as well. But talking about which one I would go for, it would probably be the one that I'm driving today, the ETSI with 150 brake horsepower. I think this is absolutely perfect for my driving needs. It's got more than enough power for the size of car, and it's also very economical because it has that assistance from the small hybrid battery. And you don't have the faff of charging it, which at the moment for me personally, I see as a plus size because of all the different miles I do every single week. One thing I will say though is despite this being the smallest battery model, it still feels quite heavy. There hasn't been any aid to the weight saving in these new vehicles. In fact, it's all been about weight gain. They're larger, they've got added equipment, they've got larger engines with additional batteries, and that all means that you've got quite heavy vehicles, and you do feel that. Although this feels like a bigger car, it no longer drives to me like a Tiguan. To me, it drives like a Touareg. It feels much larger. You seem to sit up higher. You've got a more commanding view. It feels bigger. It is bigger overall. And I don't think they've bothered to hide that. And I don't think that's a bad thing. People want bigger cars nowadays, and the Tiguan definitely achieves that. But of course, the negatives to larger vehicles is that they don't handle quite so well. And this is where Volkswagen shines, because I think they've done a really good job at getting a really comfortable driving car, which is still pretty engaging to drive. Of course, this launch model is fitted with the DCC, which I find a little bit annoying because I can't get an actual realisation about how this car drives. But if we judge it on how it drives in its comfort mode, it's really good. It's very comfortable. It soaks up the bumps in the roads well, which is A tough task in these Suffolk back roads. There's loads of potholes, but I haven't found it a harsh ride at all. And the steering is really well weighted. It's nice and nippy as well. It feels like it handles the roads really good. And you don't have particular body roll. You haven't got any lag from the gearbox. It's just a very nice car to drive. An electric boot used to be quite a pricey upgrade, but now on the latest generation of Tiguan, everything in the mid-spec match and above get an electric boot as standard. Now this version also has the keyless entry as well, which if you kick the boot, it will come open. I'm not entirely sure if this comes with the electric boot. I'll manage to pop it on the screen somewhere to confirm, but I love that feature. It makes it so simple when you've got loads of luggage and you need to get into your boot quickly. Now inside here, it's hugely competitive. You will find 652 litres. That's enormous. As you can see, you've got a waist height load area, which is so easy for getting items in and out. And you've also got an adjustable boot floor as well. Loads of space there. Also, if you wanted a spare wheel, that's going to cost you around £350 and an extra £25 if you want to add the toolkit with it as well. I don't know why they wouldn't throw that in there, but that's great to be able to still specify that. As you can see, it's a really practical load area, and you can also use these on the sides to put down your rear seats. The overall growth of the Tiguan has meant that there's loads of extra interior space as well as that extra boot space. And as you can see, sitting in here as someone who's 5'5", 5'6", I've got tons of room. I've got plenty of legroom and I've got absolutely heaps of headroom. That's really impressive. But what I like about the rear of the Tiguan is it's been super set up for family life. For instance, you've got door pockets on the seats. You've also got somewhere you can pop your mobile phone in the tops of the seats. You've got 2 USB-C charge points, and if you specify the car with it, you can also get rear climate control and you can get heated rear seats as well. So your rear seat passengers can be super comfy and cozy. You've got a pull-out armrest, and you've also got these pop-out cup holders. I'm sure you've seen these by now. Pop-out cup holders. Boing. And you've also got somewhere that you can pop your mobile phone or also your tablet if you wanted to watch films when you're in the back of the Tiguan. Let's pop that away. What I am disappointed about, however, is you don't have any through loading, which was always something which was quite a big plus point of this car. At least I don't think you do, but I am thinking that now I've said that, maybe this middle seat comes down. Oh, she spoke too soon, didn't she? So as you can see, these seats are actually split in 3 ways, which is super practical, meaning you've got that middle through loading. So it's just as practical as it always has been. I really thought they had a negative point there, but nope, they've done it again. They've improved it over the outgoing model. These seats as well, they also come forward and go backwards as well. So you can either have more legroom for the rear seat passengers or you can have more boot space as well. And on top of that, they also changed the way that they're sitting. So you can either have them sitting upright or you can put them in a reclined position. It's just fantastic, isn't it? There's so much practicality to this interior of the cabin, which is so fantastic for families. Wow. What massive changes, right? There's so much to consider when it comes to the new Tiguan. It now is bigger and, in my personal opinion, better than it ever was, but it is pricier. Although I do like the fact that when it comes to the higher spec models, they've still made them sit under that £40,000 mark, so you don't need to pay for the premium car tax. But let me know, do you think that the Tiguan is now too pricey, or do you think with everything you get included, that extra space, extra equipment, it's actually pretty good value for money? And I think that's what I fall into. I do think it is pricey, but it feels like a premium product now. But let me know all of your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. Don't forget, if you wanted to check out the Tiguan for yourself, then you can do that at the Marriott Motor Group. I'll pop their details in the description box and you can head over there and book in on a test drive. You won't regret it, I promise you. I really hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me on Also Social UK, then you know what to do. go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Until next time, guys. See you later.